Story 1. My grandfather built a small apartment on the second floor of their house. They did this because they have different sleep schedules and, in general, spend much of the day apart. They like it that way. They always eat lunch and dinner together. And my grandfather loves hearing her soft footsteps throughout the day. He calls her the woman next door. It is really cute. Story 2. My mom likes to sleep with the TV on. My dad snores and steals the sheets. My mom says sleeping separately saved their marriage. Story 3. I know an older couple who have separate bedrooms. From what I can tell, they are very much in love and openly affectionate with each other. Apparently, her snoring is intense. Their dog starts barking when he is nearby. Story 4. My girlfriend's parents both snore. They sleep separately to avoid each other's snoring. I didn't think it was that bad until they talked about having to sleep in the same bed during a trip to Europe. They were at each other's throats because if one fell asleep, the other could not. Story 5. During the summer, I moved to another room we call the wind tunnel. I run a ceiling fan almost 24 hours a day and a window fan above the bed from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. She has allergies and easily develops a runny nose and sneezes from any moving air. My body temperature skyrockets and I sweat heavily in a room with no air movement. So she sleeps in the stuffy, still master bedroom and I sleep soundly in the wind tunnel. During the winter, I move back because then I become the ultimate body warmer for her. Story 6. My parents slept in separate beds, as did my great-grandparents. For my great-grandparents, it was a matter of comfort. Grandma did not like being unable to move freely in bed. She and Grandpa loved each other dearly. She died not long after he did because she missed him so much. For my parents, there were a few reasons. As my dad aged, his sleep cycle became irregular. He could sleep for a couple of hours, then be awake for half the night and fall asleep again just as my mom was getting up for work. Also, my mom has sleep apnea and uses a continuous positive airway pressure machine. It was very noisy back then. Dad was partially deaf and the sound still bothered him. Out of respect for each other, they decided it was better to have separate bedrooms. Story 7. Sometimes I have to sleep on the couch because I become hypersensitive to sound, especially human voices, and I don't like the noise his presence makes. Luckily, he understands. Story 8. If I even try to sleep on the couch in another room, I will wake up to find her on top of me. Story 9. I do this. I'm an absolutely terrible person to share a bed with. I snore like a passing semi-trailer truck and, I'm told, flail wildly in my sleep. When we first got married, I kept waking up to an empty bed. She would join me for an hour until I fell asleep, then retreat to the couch. After a week or two, I got fed up and started sleeping on the couch first. That led to several months of trading off the couch. Eventually, I bought a twin mattress and put it in the office. That became my bed. When we moved to a bigger house, I set up in a separate room. Story 10. We have different sleep cycles and work schedules. He wakes up 3 hours before me. Story 11. We blended 2 households. His bedroom was fully furnished and the furniture and closet were full, so it made sense for my things to go in a different bedroom. We started out sleeping in one room or the other, but I realized pretty quickly that if I ever wanted a full night's sleep, it was not going to be in the same bed with him. I have been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant-sleeping son of a bitch. We do a your place or mine thing for non-sleeping activities, but when it is sleepy time, I want him to get the hell out. Story 12. My wife has multiple sclerosis. One of her primary issues is vertigo. When I am in bed with her, the motion of my breathing, heartbeat, and movement worsens her vertigo while she sleeps. I also snore, so an isolated coil mattress would not solve the problem because those mattresses are not completely motion isolating and you still feel movement. 2 beds in one room is also not ideal. Honestly, it spices up our sex life. It adds an element of pursuit and a secretive atmosphere as we sneak around the house to each other's beds to have sex. Story 13. My spouse snores. We have 2 60-pound dogs and a queen-size bed. There is no room for me, and I need complete silence. Story 14. My grandma and granddad disagree. She likes it freezing and he likes it boiling. Story 15. Not separate rooms, but a king bed with separate blankets. We sleep much better. I am a notorious blanket hog and he is always hot when he sleeps. We can be close when we want and separate when we need a good night's sleep. Story 16. My stepmother's parents took this to a new level. Her father built a second house next door. They lived next to each other for 20 years before both passed within a short time. It seemed odd to me, but it worked for them, at least from an outside perspective. I know appearances never reflect reality. Story 17. We are both 41, have been married 23 years, and sleep in different beds. During the first half of our marriage, we usually slept in the same bed, though sometimes a crying child wanted their mother to sleep with them or one of us fell asleep on the couch. About 10 years ago, I worked a midnight shift for a year and started sleeping on the spare bed in the basement. We discovered we both slept much better in our own beds. After I returned to days, we tried sharing the bed again, but sleeping apart remained more restful. Over time, we bought 2 full-size beds and put them in our bedroom, like on old television shows. It has been great. We still have sex as often as before. Having been married over half our lives, we know when intimate time will happen. Sometimes we sleep in the same bed. There are no rules requiring us to sleep apart all the time. Our beds are about a foot apart and sometimes we slide them together, especially when the kids were younger and ended up in our room along with the dog. Yes, we married at 18. We went to prom together, and my girlfriend became pregnant after prom when we stopped for soda, so we got married. Story 18. I have an aunt and uncle who do this. They are highly independent, mostly driven by her. They eat dinner together but do almost everything else separately. The funny part is that if I send invitations to a family reunion or to dinner reservations when we are already gathered, he says he is coming but that I need to check with my aunt. It is not how my relationship works, but they have been married for about 50 years, so I have no reason to criticize their methods. Story 19. I did not mean to punch him in the face or kick him in the stomach. He just kept encroaching on my 7/8 of the bed. Story 20. I cannot sleep very well. Sometimes I do not sleep at all. When I do sleep, I toss and turn. It is easier on everyone if I sleep on my own schedule and in my own bed. Sleeping in separate rooms is not a sign of a broken relationship. Story 21. My wife snores like a Peterbilt using exhaust braking on a steep descent. Story 22. Sometimes my girlfriend and I sleep in different rooms, and the reasons often differ. Did I eat a large bean burrito earlier? That is a reason for separate rooms. Also, unless your bed is very large, sleeping next to someone can make it harder to sleep. Yes, sleeping together is romantic, but getting good sleep is more romantic. Story 23. Not different rooms. I sleep on the floor. We bought a Casper mattress, and I slept on it with him for almost a year, waking up every day in a little more pain than the day before. I slept on the floor by choice until I was about 16. 6 months ago, I woke up with my back hurting so much that ibuprofen did not help. So I slept on the floor that night and have slept there every night since. The mattress is too soft. My fiancé and my black Labrador sleep well on it, and I do not wake up feeling terrible. It works for us. Story 24. My partner and I have separate bedrooms. We occasionally spend the night in each other's rooms, but we both sleep much better apart. He is a night owl and I am an early bird. He needs total darkness. I want to wake up with the sun. He wants only one sheet. I prefer 10 pounds of blankets. Having a separate room also allows me to decorate however I want, have my own personal space, and keep it at the level of cleanliness I prefer. It makes me feel independent. People look at us sideways when I mention the separate rooms, but it has been a game changer. Story 25. We have different sleep cycles due to different work schedules. We are still madly in love and we both agreed to this because it is best for both of us. Story 26. I'm a very active sleeper. She's a very light sleeper. Can I make it any more obvious? Story 27. We both snore. She puts her arm across my face, which wakes me and leaves me irritated. Story 28. Friends of mine do this. She does not like him and feels he is a terrible husband and father. He will not divorce her because it would cost him his standing in the church. which is his only source of social prestige. He is verbally abusive, and initially she did it as a wake-up call to encourage him to shape up. It is going on its 4th year. Story 29. My parents do this every so often because my dad snores, but usually my mum manages by falling asleep first. Story 30. Early in our relationship, 90% of our fights occurred in the bedroom and they were not about sex. I like to sleep in a cold room with the fan on and white noise from a box fan, and I also like to fall asleep with the television on. She prefers to sleep in a warm, still cave in complete silence and darkness. We started sleeping in separate rooms and suddenly we stopped most of our fights. Because we were getting real sleep, our other fights turned more into heated discussions. It has not really affected our sex life. Story 31. Comfort. Snuggles are nice, but I love having a king-size gel mattress all to myself. We never really shared a bed because he worked midnights for years, and when he moved to day shift I hated having him in bed at night. Plus, when he creeps in for booty, it's like we're teenagers sneaking around. Story 32. I snore loudly. I miss him terribly, but it is important for both of us to get a good night's sleep. Story 33. My friends are effectively married and have an arrangement. They say they are not a single person just because they are dating. They do not want to be the couple who merges into one entity. They are two separate adults, and adults have their own rooms. They are two of the most capable and competent people I have ever met. They have their lives figured out. They are the reason I no longer view separate bedrooms as a sign of a dysfunctional relationship. If anything, they make me think most relationships would benefit from a let's not do everything together mentality. Story 34. 3 reasons. 1. I am prone to severe and prolonged bouts of insomnia. Separate beds allow my wife to get a full night's sleep without me disturbing her. 2. I have a serious hip problem that forces me to sleep in awkward angles and positions. With separate beds, I can get comfortable without crowding her. I am tall, so even a king-size bed would be a challenge for both of us to be comfortable. 3. She cannot sleep without a fan on, and I cannot sleep with a fan on. Story 35. I am 6 feet 5 inches and sleep on my back, spread out. She has restless legs and frequently throws her knees into my body as if practicing Muay Thai. We bought a California king bed and it still was not enough. Story 36. That does not mean you cannot stand your partner. I snore. She grinds her teeth. And our Boston Terrier who sleeps with my wife farts and snores. We love each other, we are married, and we have decided to be in each other's lives until one of us dies. We are secure enough in our marriage to sleep in different beds without thinking it is weird or taboo. If either of us needs sleep to function at work, we do what is necessary. On weekends, when sleep is not essential, we sleep together. Story 37. Because a good night's sleep is more romantic than sharing a bed. I snore and toss and turn. He gives off the heat of a small village when he sleeps, and I can't stand heat. I read and he can't stand light. We keep different hours to some extent. There are a million reasons. We get along so much better this way. Story 38. The main reason it bothers me is that he snores. I'm a very light sleeper. He sets his alarm way too early and hits snooze for about an hour. I wake up before my alarm even goes off. If we didn't have to go to work, it wouldn't bother me. Story 39. It started when he said he would sleep in the guest room that night because of snoring and a bed that was too small. Turns out I still love having my own room. I like having my vanity, my bookshelves, and all my clothes without competing for space. It sounds selfish, but he does not have to worry about tossing and turning or snoring, which always made him feel bad. Having our own rooms is like having personal sanctuaries where we can go. There are no awkward fights about who should leave the bedroom during an argument. I do not think it is better or worse than sharing a bedroom. It is just different, and it works for us. Story 40. When I was very young, my mother started sleeping on the couch every night. I remember asking her why. She gave excuses. Her back hurt in their bed, the couch was more comfortable, and my father's books were always scattered on her side of the bed, which she did not want to clean. This went on for decades. She never had a proper bed of her own. She bought high-quality couches for the living room and slept there every night. Years after I had grown and moved out, my parents announced a divorce. This shocked me because I had never known any discontent between them. I asked my mother what happened. She said she fell out of love with my father after my sister was born, but she did not want us to grow up in a broken home, so they agreed to live together until both of us had moved out. My parents remained the best of friends, just not lovers, so it was awkward for them to share a bed. My mother now lives on the opposite side of the country from the rest of us, on land she inherited from her mother. She built a cabin in the woods and is happily living on her own. She has friends where she lives, but she says she does not need a relationship anymore. Story 41. My parents and my grandparents sleep in separate beds. My parents do so for a variety of reasons, including marital strain and my dad's post-traumatic stress disorder from military service, which severely disrupts his sleep. My grandparents sleep separately because of marital strain, conflicting work schedules, and because my grandmother increasingly has difficulty climbing the stairs to the master bedroom. My former boss and his wife sleep in separate beds. They are very happily married, but he has severe leg problems that cause him to toss and turn a great deal while trying to get comfortable, and they realized that if either of them wanted quality sleep, they needed separate beds. Story 42. We share a room. I sleep on a single-person futon under the bay window while he sleeps in the bed. I move around a lot when trying to fall asleep and worry my movements will wake him or keep him awake, so I cannot relax enough to sleep. I use the entire comforter. Before I got the futon, I tried sleeping in another room and I hated it. Story 43. I'm not married, but I definitely want this arrangement. Think about how awesome it would be to have sleepovers in each other's rooms. Story 44. He has night terrors in the bed but not on the couch. He prefers to sleep in a lit room and generally plays video games late at night. I prefer a dark, quiet room. He runs very hot and I like to sleep bundled up. He snores badly. He started sleeping in the living room, and it is much more restful for both of us. He will sleep in the bed occasionally, but there is a 50-50 chance he will wake up in the morning in a terrible headspace. I miss him in bed, but all the animals sleep with me when he is not there. I also do not have to worry about him flailing in his sleep and elbowing or punching me by accident. We are working on the first and fourth issues. When we have a bigger place, we will probably have separate beds. Story 45. We both fight ninjas in our sleep. She likes to sleep on a feathery cloud, while I prefer a rock. She sleeps in complete silence, and I need the television on. Sleeping in the same bed makes us grouchy and causes more arguments. Our relationship is much better when we are not suffering from sleep deprivation. Story 46. She is disabled and incontinent. I have sleep apnea. We both have restless legs syndrome. Story 47. I work nights and get home when she wakes up. We have 3 kids. I have to lock myself in the master closet with a bed, earplugs, and a dark curtain to be able to sleep. It is not permanent, but it is all we have. Story 48. My parents moved into separate rooms when I was in high school, supposedly because of my dad's work schedule, but really it was because they were unhappy with each other and wanted to separate. They waited until I was 18 to make it official and get divorced because they wanted to stay together for me. The funny thing is my dad still lived with us for 2 years after that, and it sort of worked. A lot of my friends when I was in college assumed my parents were still together because of this, even though they had officially split years earlier. Story 49. I've been married for 22 years. We got married young and, despite being in the military, we made it. Marriage is about sharing your life and happiness with someone and trusting that you can rely on them in the long term. It's not about having someone up your ass 24/7 or feeling neglected when the other person has their own problems. At the end of the day, when you're tired and just want to get to bed, having someone else there every night with different agendas and schedules can be frustrating. There are plenty of late-night booty calls from down the hall when temptation strikes. We joke about leaving some money on the nightstand. Story 50. Not me, but my grandparents. My grandfather snored like a freight train. My grandmother had untreated lactose intolerance. She could not sleep because of the noise. He could not sleep because of the smell. Story 51. We are not married. I hope that is not a requirement. My boyfriend snores. He does not have sleep apnea. We tried breathe right strips and they worked, but they gave him horrible bruises on his nose. It was not the product's fault. His skin is very sensitive and he bruises easily. We start in the same bed, and at some point during the night I end up in the other bed. He usually falls asleep before I do, so he does not notice. He just remembers falling asleep in the same bed. If I fall asleep first, I usually wake up from the snoring and move to the other bed. I get up 2 hours before him for work, so he is not disturbed by my alarm. I kiss him goodbye and everything is fine. It works out well. It is like when couples fall asleep intertwined and move apart through the night to their own sides of the bed. On weekends we sleep through the night together because I am usually too tired to be woken by the snoring. We have different preferences for mattress firmness. He likes soft and I like firm. I would rather sleep on the floor than on a soft memory foam mattress. We talk about things that bother us and check in now and then. Communication is key. Story 52. Kids who come to our bed at night, if they do not start their migrate around like a drunk octopus, wake regularly, and are generally painful. When both are in the same room, they wake each other, and it is 10 times worse. If each of us has one, we get to sleep, sort of. This too shall pass. Story 53. I wake at the slightest mouse fart and cannot go back to sleep. She sleeps like the dead and insists on leaving her phone notifications at full volume. There are other reasons, but that alone was enough for me. Story 54. This is a conversation we have with every guest who visits for the first time. Whoa, you sleep in separate bedrooms? You just got married. It started because we had different sleeping cycles and different preferred temperatures. I also have chronic back issues, so I need to lie in unusual positions. The biggest reason now is that my wife and I take each other out on dates, and once in a while we have sleepovers. Although we are married, live together, and see each other all the time, sleeping separately and occasionally having a sleepover gives us the first crush butterflies. It is nice to feel infatuated with my wife that way once in a while. Sounds strange, but it works for us. Story 55. My parents have been like this for the past 5 years. The original excuse was that my dad has restless legs and would move around in bed a lot. Later they said he went to sleep too late, and then that he talked in his sleep. By now everyone knows it is just because they hate each other but will not divorce because of Jesus, and they have pretty much given up making excuses. Story 56. My grandparents slept in separate rooms for more than 10 years because my grandmother snored so loudly it kept my grandfather awake. When we visited and stayed overnight, we would always see them get up and meet in the kitchen for a hug and a kiss, then go about their morning. Sleep is important. Story 57. Sleeping is not sexual or intimate. It is a necessary part of life that greatly affects the quality of the next day. Get a good night's sleep alone. Wake up in a good mood, and spend the day with your significant other. Thank you for asking. My friends dismiss it as being sad, as if I do not love my significant other because I am not beside her while I lie motionless for 8 hours. Story 58. I have Crohn's disease and constant pain that jolts me awake many times at night. Sometimes it's just easier to sleep on the couch, so I don't disturb him by waking up 7 or 8 times. Story 59. He snores like a freight train and I am a light sleeper. We tried for 5 years. When I became pregnant, I kicked him into the spare room because I was being woken up by vomiting at 4 a.m. every day and I wanted to sleep through the night. That arrangement stuck, and we are much happier not sleeping together. We were both beginning to resent each other because of the lost sleep. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.